Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me. Box13 at greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter, Radio Detectives. And become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.com/Radio Detectives. Today's episode is brought to you by the financial support of our listeners. I want to thank Steven so much for his support. We'll send access to the premium site, as we do with all donations of $7 or more. Well, today's episode is going to be one of those where I'll have to come back in the middle to tell you what happened in the missing part. In this case, the missing part is part 4, which is usually a pretty important part in the show, so this can appear to be a bit awkward, so your patience is appreciated. By the way, the source of what actually happened, we're using the Who is Johnny Dollar matter by John C. Abbott, who went and researched all the available scripts at the Thousand Oaks Library, and his books are available on Amazon. We will also send you your choice of one of the 3 volumes of the Who is Johnny Dollar series. For those living in the United States, with a donation of $100 or more, go to support.greatdetectives.net for more details. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into part 3 of the Lonely Heart Matter.
From Hollywood, time now for Johnny Dollar.
Ready with your call to Hartford, Mr. Dollar. Go ahead, please.
Johnny, what's up?
Plenty, Dave. The Wells girl was right. Her father was murdered. We just got the autopsy report. He died from a dose of ground glass.
Then I'll put a stop order on the insurance claim. It was filed this afternoon.
And something else, Dave. A man died in St. Louis about 2.5 years ago. I wonder if you'd have Mutual Records Service check and see if he was insured. His name was Walter Maberly Burke.
Burke? Well, Johnny...
Yeah, I know. Jonathan Wells' widow was previously married to Burke. They were married at the time of his death. And he also died suddenly and mysteriously.
Holy smoke. Just call her Murdering Mabel.
Oh, you haven't met her, Dave. She's just a sweet old lady who's had a little bad luck now and then. And she regards death as the doorway to a greater and more glorious life.
Oh? Well, that sounds very noble.
It would, if she didn't keep slamming the door.
Tonight, and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. From Special Investigator Johnny Dollar, location Chicago, to the Home Office, Northwestern Surety Company, Hartford, Connecticut. Assignment, The Lonely Hearts Matter. Expense account continued. Item 8, $7.65. Dinner for Norma Wells and myself. It was brought up by room service, and we ate alone in my suite. Norma didn't feel like facing the dining room. I was still trying to figure her out. When she'd come to me with a claim that her father had been poisoned by her stepmother for his insurance, I'd tagged her for a jealous, hysterical kid, and that still went. But now, with the autopsy report in, it was more than that. She was right. Jonathan Wells had been poisoned. And again, when she told me someone was hanging around her apartment, I only half believed her. But by now, I was about ready to believe anything.
I'd have sworn I couldn't eat a bite.
Well, you needed it. You've been going on nothing but nerve.
And I'll still be. Until this is all over.
Well, it shouldn't take long now. That autopsy report gives us the green light. The police will move in now, and we can put the pressure on.
It's such a terrible thing. Why, 6 months ago, when she married him, she was planning this right then.
It looks that way, all right.
Father was always so good to her. And yes, and to that worthless nephew of hers, Burton Creeley. What kind of a mind does a person have, Mr. Dollar? To do a thing like she did.
Well, it hasn't been proved yet that she's the one who did it, Miss Wells.
No, but who else could have?
I don't know. More coffee?
No, thanks.
Well, whenever you're finished, we'll take a taxi over to your apartment and pick up whatever you need and then get you a room here at the hotel. I don't think you're in danger, but I imagine you'll feel a lot less nervous here.
Oh, I will. And I do appreciate your help and kindness, Mr. Dollar.
Forget it. It's part of my job. Only this time, when you check in, you go to your room and stay put.
What do you mean?
When I came back from talking to Mabel Burke, Max Lancer from the DA's office was waiting for me down in the lobby. He said he'd phoned here to the room 5 or 6 times, got no answer.
I was here. I heard the phone, but, well, I didn't know if you wanted me to answer.
He sent a bellboy up to knock on the door.
Well, I must have been in the shower. I was here all the time. Don't you believe me?
Any reason I shouldn't believe you? Are you through eating?
Yes.
Okay, let's go. Expense account item 9, $1.80. Taxi from the hotel to Norma Wells' apartment. Night had fallen over the city, and the tall buildings of the Loop shimmered above the noisy blaze of lights. Laughing groups of early dinner-goers jostled through the scrambling packs of late shoppers. Auto horns, blaring jazz, newsboys, traffic whistles. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Yesterday never was, tomorrow's only a dream, and today's nearly gone. So hurry it up and let's get going. We'll sleep when we're dead. Like Jonathan Wells on his cool marble slab in the city morgue.
It's apartment C, the next door on the left.
Right.
Have a key here somewhere.
Sure you locked it?
Oh, yes, I always... It's not locked.
Well, you were scared when you left, and maybe you
No.
didn't.
I remember locking the door.
You sure?
Yes. Now it's...
Stay back.
What is it, Mr. Dollar?
Come on in.
Oh, no.
It looks as though you've had visitors, Miss Wells.
The whole place turned upside down. Why would anyone want to do that?
Looking for something, probably.
For what?
I don't know. Suppose you look around, see if you notice anything missing.
It's no use, Mr. Dollar. I've gone through the whole place twice now, and I'm certain that nothing's been taken.
But they had to have some reason to break in here, go through everything this
I
way.
suppose so, but... Well, I'm positive there's nothing missing.
All right. If there isn't, there isn't. Well, do you suppose that coffee's ready now?
Oh, I think so. Come on in the kitchen. I guess you'll believe me now. Somebody was hanging around here earlier today.
Just wish I could figure what they're after.
Looks plenty strong. There's sugar there on the table. I'll get some cream from the refrigerator.
Don't bother on my account. I drink it black.
Well, not me. I use plenty of both. Lots and lots of cream and 2 heaping spoons of sugar.
They must have had a reason to break in here. If it wasn't to steal something, then what was the reason?
The sugar looks funny.
Doesn't make sense at all.
Guess I ought to keep it covered. The sugar. I was saying it looked funny. Well...
Wait a minute. Maybe they broke in to leave something.
Leave something?
Yeah. Here, give me that cup. And the spoon.
What are you doing?
Look.
Oh, that's funny. It didn't even dissolve.
The sugar dissolved, all right.
Well, then what's that in the spoon?
Ground glass. I phoned Max Lancer and had him send over a policewoman to accompany Norma Wells back to the hotel, get her checked in, and stay with her overnight. Then I called the Wells residence. The old lady answered the phone herself, and I asked for her nephew, Burton Creeley. She said he wasn't in. So on an off chance, I took a taxi to the office of the Rendezvous Club, Lonely Hearts Unlimited. There was no light showing behind the transom over the door. The door was unlocked. I fumbled around for a light switch, but somebody beat me to it.
Get your hands up!
Well, at least I found you in this time.
What are you doing here? Who are you?
Put that gun away, Creeley. Or if you're going to use it, you'd better take the safety off first.
Safety? What are you doing?
All right, let go of it, Creeley. Thanks.
You think you'll get away with this, mister? You're crazy.
My mistake. The safety was off. Sorry to rough you up, but I don't like people who go around pointing guns at people without any reason for it.
You broke in here. That's illegal entry. I'll have you arrested.
Why not? Why not? The phone's right behind you.
Who are you, anyway?
Johnny Dollar. I'm a special investigator for the Northwestern Surety Company.
What?
I imagine the name is familiar to you, since they're holding a $50,000 life insurance policy on the late Jonathan Wells, with your Aunt Mabel named as beneficiary.
What are you doing here?
Looking for you, as a matter of fact.
What for?
I wanted to ask you why you sneaked out through the door there the other day in the office when I was here earlier.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, knock it off, Creeley. You got in such a hurry, you left your cigar burning there in the ashtray, the same brand you're smoking right now.
Well, I thought you were a bill collector.
You knew who I was. You were listening there at the door while I talked to your secretary. Now, why'd you run out?
Oh, all right. I did know who you were, Mr. Dollar, but, well, you're misinterpreting things.
No kidding. In what way?
I was late for an appointment. I didn't want to get tied up. I figured you could find out anything you wanted to know from my aunt. I saw no necessity for talking to you.
I see. Where have you been since then?
Right here, most of the time.
And the rest of the time?
But what difference does it make?
You weren't over at Norma Wells' apartment by any chance?
Are you kidding? I detest that girl.
Why so?
Because she's a smug, self-satisfied little phony. She's too big for her britches. Now, what makes you think I'd be hanging around her?
Somebody was.
I don't get it.
Somebody broke into her apartment this afternoon or this evening and turned it upside down.
Well, she hasn't got anything I want.
They didn't take anything. They broke in to leave something. I found some ground glass planted in her sugar bowl.
Ground glass?
Sound familiar?
What are you getting at?
You mean you haven't heard about the coroner's report on Jonathan Wells?
No, why? What has that got to do
Mr.
with...
Mr. Wells died from a dose of ground glass.
Lord. You mean he was killed, murdered?
I don't imagine he ate the stuff intentionally, do you?
I can't believe it.
Well, the police aren't having that trouble.
I just can't imagine anybody. Such a nice guy. He always got along fine with everybody.
Including you?
Yes. We'd got to be good friends.
What about his daughter, Norma?
I don't really know. She blew a top and moved out a month after Aunt Mabel and Jonathan were married.
Why?
Oh, jealous, I guess. She couldn't stand it to see her father pay any attention to anybody but her.
Did they quarrel much?
Oh, Jonathan never quarreled with anybody. No, she just seemed to go around with a mad on most of the time. She's a rare one, that girl.
What do you mean?
Oh, she seems to think of herself as a princess or something.
I understand you made quite a play for her at first.
I suppose she told you that.
Did you?
I tried to be friendly to her, that's all. I don't know what she chose to call it. Mr. Dollar, I'm engaged to Miss Tetler, the girl that works here in the office.
Mm-hmm. What do you do for a living, Mr. Creeley?
I take care of this correspondence club for Aunt Mabel. I've got sort of a heart condition. I can't work too hard.
I see. You know, it might be a good idea if you checked in with the police. They'll probably want to talk to you.
Well, who do they think did it?
Well, they haven't arrested anybody yet, but there are a lot of straws pointing in one direction.
What direction?
Toward your Aunt Mabel, I'm afraid.
But that's ridiculous. Now, she may be a little vague, not quite all with it maybe, but she wouldn't do a thing like that. They're out to frame her, that's what they're doing.
Who else had a motive, Mr. Creeley?
But what about his daughter? She stands to gain by all this. She inherits the estate. Maybe she faked that burglary, planted the ground glass in her apartment herself. Have you thought of that, Mr. Dollar?
Yeah. Yeah, I've thought of it.
Now, here's our star to tell you about tomorrow's intriguing episode of this week's story.
Tomorrow, another murder comes to light, another link in a long chain, and an old lady weeps for the wasted years. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by Les Crutchfield, it is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Be sure to join us tomorrow night, same time and station, for the next exciting episode of Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
Welcome back. Well, in part 4 of the series, Johnny learned a key fact from Dave, and namely that was that Mabel's first husband, Walter, left her $50,000 insurance policy. And Johnny gets curious if there might have been other husbands. He shares this information with Max from the district attorney office before going up to talk to Mabel. And apparently she had a somewhat rambling conversation. And then Johnny tells her about the ground glass which was responsible for her latest husband's death. She says it's ridiculous that he would have known it, and then goes into something about death being in the stars. While this is going on, Johnny gets a call from Max, who says that they have found out that Walter Burke died of consuming ground glass. So first husband died of this as well. So when Johnny hangs up, Mabel collapses in pain. So that's where we're at. Widow, 2 husbands who died, exact same causes, collected exact same insurance payout. Then she collapses at the end of part 4. And what happens? We'll find out. It's time now to go back to yours truly, Johnny Dollar, and The Lonely Hearts Matter part 5.
From Hollywood, it's time now for
Johnny Dollar.
Max Lancer, Johnny. DA's office. How is she?
Pretty weak. The hospital staff are doing all they can for her, but they don't give her much hope.
Has she been able to talk?
No, not yet. Maybe not ever. It was ground glass, all right. The doctor's sure of it now.
The same as her husband. Why, Johnny? Why her?
I'll guess with you.
Maybe she figured we were closing in on her, that the game was over and took this way out.
We had nothing on her, Max. Suspicion, that's all we were going on. She'd had 2 husbands in the last 3 years. Both of them died from the effects of ground glass poisoning. And both times she goes for $50,000 insurance. That's all we had to go on, and it wasn't enough.
But maybe she didn't realize that.
I can give you a better theory.
Okay, sound off.
Somebody tried to murder her.
Tonight and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. From Special Investigator Johnny Dollar, location Chicago. To the Home Office, Northwestern Surety Company, Hartford, Connecticut. Assignment, The Lonely Hearts Matter. Expense account, final page. Item 15, $2.60. Sandwiches, cigarettes, and incidentals, which I had sent up from a lunchroom across the street from the hospital. It was evening again now. I'd spent the whole day in the lounge down the hall from the room where Mabel Burke Wells was fighting for her life. Fighting and slowly losing. I'd tagged her as a murderess, responsible for the deaths of 2 of her husbands. But then she herself had been struck down by the same poison. And now only she had the key to the puzzle. A key she might never give up.
Calling Dr. Kenworthy. Dr. Kenworthy. Wanted in delivery room.
Oh, hiya, Creeley.
Any change yet in my aunt's condition?
No, I just talked to the doctor. If anything, she's even weaker.
She didn't even recognize me. I've been in the room off and on all day. She didn't even know I was there.
Well, she's in pretty bad shape. Sit down. You look a little rocky yourself.
Thanks. I feel that way. Aunt Mabel's been a real mother to me. This is quite a shock.
Yes, I imagine.
Doctor says it's the same thing that killed Jonathan.
Yes, that's right.
Well, that just doesn't make any sense, Mr. Dollar.
Say, tell me something. Did anyone come to the house to see your aunt? Either last night after Lancer left or this morning before I got there?
And as far as I know, why do you think someone might have?
I don't know.
She'd already gone to bed when I came in early this morning. It's possible, of course, but I don't believe anyone did. She never had any visitors. She's always been a lonely person, actually.
Maybe that's why she started the Lonely Hearts Club.
Yes, it was. I suggested the idea to her as a way to... and I loved it.
Why couldn't she and Jonathan's daughter, Norma Wells, get along?
She's a strange girl. I told her. I spoke to Jonathan about it once, but he just laughed it off. He said Norma just had too much possessive.
Yes. The two of them had been alone until he married your aunt.
Mr. Dollar.
Yeah?
The police think that Aunt Mabel killed him, don't they?
They've got some pretty strong reasons for thinking so.
And the way she is now, dying, and I suppose they think she did it herself?
It's possible she did.
Is that what you think?
Oh, I'm not sure. I am. Oh, come on over, Miss Wells.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Just making conversation. You two know each other, I guess.
Yes.
Well, I think I'll get on with a cup of coffee. I'll see you later, Doc.
I can't stand that man.
So I gather.
How is she?
Not much change.
Couldn't bear just sitting in that hotel room wondering what was happening. She hasn't been able to talk?
No, not yet.
I don't understand it. My father died less than 2 hours after he was first stricken.
Difference in constitution, maybe. Different dose.
Useless, but that's the way I feel. I can't help it. When I think of my father, so kind and gentle, murdered in cold blood by that woman.
If she did do it, then why this?
You mean the same thing happening to her?
That's right.
Remorse, maybe, if she's capable of it. Or fear. I don't know why. Maybe she's insane. I've always thought she might be.
Oh, she's sane, all right. As sane as any of us.
And what do you think happened to her?
Oh, I don't know.
We probably never will know. She'll die without talking, and there'll never be any proof.
That's a possibility.
That worthless nephew of hers will collect the insurance, I suppose.
That's not my department. But under the circumstances, I think he'd have a legal claim.
It's horrible.
Mr. Dollar,
What is it, nurse?
she's conscious, and she wants to see you.
She was a dying woman. I could see it the moment Norma Wells and I walked into the room. I sent the nurse to find her nephew, Burton Creeley, and he slipped in quietly a few seconds later. The old lady lay back on her pillows, smiling to herself as usual, bright-eyed with a last burst of false vitality. Death was only minutes away. All of us knew it, and she knew it too.
My gracious. All of you look so serious. But it was nice of you to come. It keeps a body from feeling lonesome.
You save your strength now, Mrs. Wells.
What on earth for? Body can't enjoy the last few breaths. It might as well not be living.
Please, Aunt Mabel,
Don't you please me, Burton Creeley. Straighten your tie. You look a fright. My, certainly nice to see you here, Norma.
I
always said to Jonathan, it's just a crying shame that Norma and me can't hit it off better. He just laughed and
Mrs. Wells.
Be quiet, young man. Know what you're after. All in due time. As a matter of fact, that's why I wanted to see you. I've been in my senses for the last hour, but I just didn't let on. I wanted a chance to think. I'm about to die, you know.
Aunt Mabel, don't talk that way.
Oh, simmer down, Burton. Death is only the doorway to a more glorious life. You remember that. Mr. Dollar, I didn't do it.
I know. I finally came to that conclusion myself, too late.
You mean you're not surprised?
No.
Well, at least it's a help that I don't have to convince you. I'm afraid I won't have that much time.
What are you saying?
You heard me, Norma. I said I didn't kill Jonathan. Why, I was much too fond of him to do a thing like that.
Who did kill him, Mrs. Wells?
That's what I was puzzling over for the last hour. Then, when I figured it out, I had to decide whether to let sleeping dogs lie or see that justice took its course. And
Easy now.
But I remembered how kind Jonathan had been and decided to...
Aunt Mabel, don't try to talk anymore.
Those chocolates, Burton, that you gave me this morning. Oh, that was an awful naughty thing to do, Burton. And now you have to be punished for it.
Wait a minute, Mrs. Wells.
Jonathan. Walter, too. Yeah, they were always so nice to you. I just can't understand why you did it. Mr. Dollar.
Yes?
You take Burton in hand. Give him a good talking to. Explain to him
Mrs. Wells.
that he mustn't go around.
Is she...
Yeah. Well, Creeley.
Get your hands up, Dollar.
Huh?
One move from you and Norma gets a bullet right in the back.
Let go of me.
Into the closet, Dollar. Go
Don't
on.
be a fool, Creeley.
Hurry up. Go on. Now remember one thing, Dollar. I'm taking Miss High and Mighty here along. If they get me, then she goes too.
The door was solid, built to last. It took me several minutes to smash it open. The nurse in the corridor said Creeley and Norma Wells had gone down in the elevator. I grabbed the floor phone and called the main desk in the lobby. They said some man and a girl had just stolen an ambulance from the emergency driveway and headed west onto the Lakeshore Parkway. And at that moment, Max Lancer stepped off the elevator.
Johnny, what's going on?
Back to your car, Max. Come on. We could hear the ambulance siren for a while, somewhere up ahead of us, then we lost it. Max kept the red light flashing and the accelerator on the floorboard. The speedometer needle edge past 85, touched 90, and hung there. There were 9 miles, but parked cars, a crowd gathering, and the ambulance rolled over against the bank.
Where are they?
A man and a girl got out of it. They ran into the brush there. He's carrying a gun.
Take the east side, Johnny. I'll go around the other way.
All right, Max.
And watch yourself.
The undergrowth was heavy. A mass of dark shadows slashed here and there by beams of light from the headlamps of the cars on the road above. Max disappeared into the night, and I moved on alone. Minutes passed. Then a car light shifted slightly, and I saw them, only a few yards away, crouched against a tree. He was holding the gun pressed against his side.
Hold it, Dollar.
You're finished, Creeley. You'd better give up.
You know what I told you. If I go, she goes.
Johnny, he's going to kill me.
I was holding my gun at my side, but I didn't dare lift to try to aim it. One false move on my part, and he pulled the trigger, blast the life out of Norma Wells. Then she struggled slightly, tried to pull away from him. I had a 1-second chance, and I took it. Are you all right?
Yes. Yes, I'm all right.
I didn't have time to call the shot. I had to get it off fast. Yeah. Looks like it caught him in the heart. Expense account item 16, $231.25. Hotel and incidentals in Chicago and transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $416.40. End of account, end of report. Remarks? A heart with a bullet hole in it. There's a real lonely heart. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Now, here's our star to tell you about next week's intriguing story.
Next week, the Callicles matter, which is just another way of saying the Greeks had a word for it. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by Les Crutchfield, it is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Heard in this week's cast were Lucille Meredith, Mary Jane Croft, Virginia Gregg, Herb Ellis, Howard McNear, and Stacey Harris. Musical supervision by Amerigo Marino. Be sure to join us on Monday night, same time and station, for another exciting story of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
welcome back. A nice, hard-boiled closing line for Johnny in this case. A solid story by Les Crutchfield. Gives us a really solid-looking cast of suspects here. I think that it wouldn't have really surprised me had any of them done it. The daughter, the nephew, or the wife. It all seemed pretty plausible. Plus, I think Johnny Dollar is pretty clever in keeping the audience on their toes. A couple of weeks back, of course, in the Laird Douglas story, they basically worked to trick us into not noticing that the old lady was the murderer. And in this one, they really worked hard on pointing out so many clues to show us that she was the murderer when she wasn't. So, an interesting case and an interesting outcome. I'll be glad that we actually have only one more of these Lost Episodes series, and that Lost Episode is going to be a part 2, and it'll be several months from now. Dr. Tim will return next Friday, and then once that's finished, we'll finish up the Carter Brown mysteries. All right, well, that will do it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with the lineup, and then on Monday, join us for yours truly, Johnny Dollar. In the meantime, your comments are appreciated. Box13 at greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives, and become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.com/Radio Detectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.